This is Christine, your DIY craftaholic. Welcome back to my channel if you're returning, and if you are new, welcome to you as well. Just a heads up guys, the name of my channel will be changing soon, so keep a lookout for that. Beware of these three ladies, they're fierce. This is just our imagination, so without further ado, let's get crafting. So we were challenged to use 3 items, a placemat, a flip-flop, and tumbling tower block. So my first one will be my placemat. I got this from the 99-cent store, and I've had this in my stash for a few years now. So I will be removing the border, so I just use the X-Acto knife and I just cut the thread that sewed it on and then removed it and set that aside. I will be using it later on. So this is an empty oats container. I don't throw anything out guys. I've had this sitting down by my desk for a few months, and here I'll be putting it to use. So I removed the paper from the outside, and then the cover I flipped it over and glued it at the bottom of the container. And then I took some Waverly Ivory chalk paint, and I'm giving this one coat of the paint, not painting it too much because of course that will be covered. And then for the plastic that I covered, that I placed at the bottom, I painted that with a coat of folk art plastic paint. Now that was not necessary because as you can or as you will see, I eventually covered that. So now here I took the placemat again and I wrapped it around the can just to give me a measurement as to where I needed to cut. And then I took my L square and just marked the area that needed to be cut, and then just cut that off. But before I cut it off, to keep everything intact and to prevent the bamboo from splitting, I used a piece of painter's tape and just placed that over the area that needed to cut, and then took the X-Acto knife or the utility knife and score that, and then the scissors to just cut it off. Now I'm going to be decoupaging, so I took this napkin that I had in my stash. This was a piece that was left from further use, or I'd used it before and this was remaining. So I cut off what I wanted, separated that, and then here I'm just cutting off the excess from the mat, and of course that is going to be set aside. I'm not going to throw that out. That will come in handy sometime later on. So here I'm taking my napkin, removing the extra ply, and I placed them down according to how I wanted to glue them on. Took some Mod Podge on this little Mod Podge brush and just lightly went over the napkin. You guys know how to decoupage already. I don't think I need to give you all that much instruction on how to decoupage. You guys are pros. But for those, if this is your first time seeing this technique, this is what I'm doing. I'm just applying some Mod Podge to the napkin, place it on the surface, and then went over it again to just smooth down the edges. And then once that was done, I used the heat gun to dry this. I'm not going to put too much heat here because I don't want to mess with the configuration of the mat. And guys, if you are new to decoupaging, I will leave a video here at the top. When you get done, just click on it, save it, and so you can go back to it and watch it afterwards and then come back to the video. But I have tons of videos on here with decoupaging techniques, so you can check those out. So here I've cut my mat, and I'm now using some wood glue. I'm not using hot glue here because, you know, when the hot glue dries, it's gonna leave that bump, and I don't want that. So I'm using the wood glue instead. And I just went around and a little hot glue just to keep the end of the mat in place. And once I went all the way around, there was a little piece still hanging. I glued that down and then just cut that off. And if you notice, I still had the painter's tape at the top of the mat. I didn't remove that yet. I'm going to leave that there for a little while. So here I'm just applying the rest of the Mod Podge, the second coat, on top of the napkin and using the heat gun to just dry that. And this is so easy, guys. Now there's so much I could have done with this mat. I chose to go the easy route. Yes, I didn't want to get into too much right now because this was late and I need my rest. Next, I took the border that I removed from the mat, and I'm going to be going around the edge or the rim of the container with that. So I just use a little hot glue to hold it in place, and I'm using the same fold that's on the trim to have it lying on top of the rim. And I went all the way around until I was done, and then just use a little of the hot glue to secure the end. And after doing that, I remembered that I should have covered the inside before I glued on the rim. So I took a piece of scrapbooking paper. This came from a paper pad that I got from Michael's. And I just placed that on the inside, measured how much I needed to cut, and then just remove the excess and use some hot glue. You can use a glue stick. I just use a hot glue to hold it in place. And now it's all done. I continued with gluing on the rim or the trim. Just place some hot glue around it all the way around and glued it on top of the paper. And now that is done, I'm going to work on the base of the vase. So I took another piece of the trim down the end and just glue that down to cover the base. And this is done. To give me a little bit more stability at the base, I cut a piece of cardboard, and then I took some jute cord and just glued that right around the cardboard. I think I went around 3 times. And then once I did that, I took the lighter and just burned off the excess, and then just glued that down on top of the lid. And to elevate this a little bit more, I glued on 3 small wooden tubes. And that's going to be the legs for this. And that is it, guys. Cute, cute, cute. Love it. Let me know what you think about this one. So here we are for Just Our Imagination. And this is hosted by Kathy Jo of Kathy Jo DIYs, Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY, and our guest host is Melissa from Craft Crumbs. Now I'll leave links to their channels in the description box below, as well as the playlist, and I'll also link the playlist under the video. Guys, make sure to check out the host channels and our guest host channel. You don't want to miss them. They are very talented. So our second challenge items are these tumbling tower blocks. I'll be using 24 of them, and I'm just setting them or laying them out according to how I'm going to be gluing them on. So if you are new to my channel or coming over from the playlist, welcome. I'm so happy you joined me today. Here on my channel, I do DIYs on a budget, dupes, and thrift flips. If you love budget-friendly DIYs like these and you have not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing and be sure to hit that notification bell. Hit it again and select all so YouTube notifies you whenever I upload new videos. And now that I have them all laid out, I used a little hot glue for immediate hold and the wood glue for longer lasting hold. And I'm gluing them together. So this is how I'm gluing them together, and I'm going to go all the way around until all of them have been glued. But while I was doing this, I realized that I should actually have something in between those spaces so that the spaces between the different blocks can be even. And that's when I realized, and I grabbed some small wooden blocks and placed them in those spaces. And then just continued on with the gluing process until I had all the pieces glued together. And then my frame was complete. I'm going to set this aside so it can dry properly. So it didn't dawn on me while I was doing all of that gluing and straightening and gluing and straightening that I needed to put it on something solid. So I grabbed this piece of cardboard that I had, placed it on there, continued with my gluing until I had all the pieces in place, And then to just secure it a little bit more, I used a little hot glue to just hold the pieces together. And then once that was dried, I removed the little blocks that I had placed there as spacers. And then I took a little of the wood glue with a little water. I watered that down and just went over the joins for even more stability. So let me take a quick minute to just tell my subscribers, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your support. And if you are here for the first time, thank you so much for stopping by as well. Next, I just added a little of the antique wax to my solution. I'm applying that to this is going to be the back side of my frame. So I just went over that with it. And here it is. Now to give me a surface to work with, I took a piece of cardboard and I just traced out the measurement that I needed as my base. And then I took this folk art flat, I think this is coffee latte, and I gave the frame a coat and a half of the paint. After it dried, I thought it looked a little bit too pale, so I went in with some plastic paint. Now this paint was made for plastic, but I'm using it on wood. It works both ways because it's satin acrylic, so it's fine. And I thought it gave it a little brighter shade. I love this look that it has. So I thought, let's spruce this up a little bit. So I took the terrazzo flake and sealer. I got these from PLAID. Now the sealer is what holds the flakes together, and I got 3 different colors of the flakes. Now you apply the sealer, you put on as much as possible onto your surface, and I will link a video down in my description box below showing you how I used the terrazzo sealer and flakes in a previous DIY. So once you apply your sealer, you're going to apply your flake. You can put on as much as needed or as little as is needed. Depends on the amount that you want. Now I just want a little bit on here. I don't want a lot. So I sprinkled it on and then I used the brush to kind of put it in place. Now you don't need to use your brush. Don't use your brush like you see me doing here. Do not use the brush, because what the brush does is the same brush that has the sealer on it, and it's the same brush you're using. So it's actually just pulling up the flakes from what you just put down. I don't know why I was doing that. So once I was satisfied with the amount that I wanted to have on the frame, I set that aside. Now you have to leave this for about 30 minutes to dry. I didn't wait 30 minutes because I wanted to finish what I was doing for the night. So I think I just left it for about 20 minutes. I got this little desk vacuum from the Dollar Tree. Can you believe it? It has this USB cable, so I'm just using that to clean up my mess here a little bit. When I saw it in Dollar Tree, I knew I had to get this. And this is not sponsored. It is not one of the challenged items either. I just thought that I needed to have it, and it's pink and it's cute. So if this is something you're interested in, be sure to check out the Dollar Tree when next you go there. And here is my canvas pad. I just took a sheet from that. I love using this thing so much. And I'm measuring my cardboard on there to the size that I wanted, and I use my roller cutter and cut that out. And here I'm going again with my stickers. I'm loving these stickers so much. I selected that one. Looks like a dandelion. Selected that, cut it out, and I'm going to rub that onto my canvas. If you are interested in this set of stickers, I will link that in my description box below. It is also in my Amazon storefront. You can check it out there as well. So once I place that down, I just used the frame to make sure I was even or had it placed right in the center. and then just set that aside and then rub that on. I love these rub-on transfers, but they do take a little extra elbow grease, so you have to rub a little bit harder than usual. Now, to tone it down a little bit, I took a little of the ivory chalk paint and a dry chippy brush, dusted off the excess on a napkin and just went across the surface of the graphic, and then just applied some Mod Podge to that as well. This is a set of rubber stamps that has some cool little sayings on here. I selected the one that says "Be authentically you." Peel that off, placed it on the stamp block, and I'm using this stamp pad. I got this from Temu. Now, I'm not sure if it's because the stamp is fairly new. As you can see, it did not transfer over all the way. I placed it back down and did the same thing, and it still did not transfer over. So I had to wipe that out. You use a baby wipe that out, and painted it over. And because I painted it over a second time, it kind of changed the color of the canvas. So I decided to just go all the way with the paint. So I took a small brush and a little bit more paint and just painted on top of the canvas to make that balance out. And then just dried it with the heat gun, and we're good to go again. To add a little pop effect to my canvas, I took the antique wax and a dry brush and just barely brushed the surface of the canvas just to distress it a little bit, not too much. For my second attempt with this stamp, I wiped it off, made sure that there was no ink on it, and then I went again, inked my stamp, and here I am just making sure that I don't have any ink to transfer where it should not, and then I tried again. It did not come out all the way like I wanted it to, and at this point I just gave up and just used a black ink pen to fill in the word. To glue on the canvas to the cardboard, I used some Fix-It-All glue, and as you can see, I'm squeezing out all that is remaining in this little tube, as well as some hot glue, and glued the canvas on top of that. So the frame with the terrazzo flake is now dry, and it's time to apply the second coat of the sealer. So here I am going again on top of the flake that was originally placed down and left to dry for 30 minutes. I am now placing the sealer again, and this second coat helps to just keep everything in place. And because for the sake of the video and for time, I'm using the heat gun to just speed up the drying process. It wasn't completely dry, that second coat, but I wanted to complete this so I could leave it overnight to dry. So I took my canvas piece and I placed the frame on top of that, and I'm using the Fix-It-All glue. Yes, this is a new tube. I'm using the Fix-It-All glue as well as a little hot glue to glue that on. And the good thing about this part is that the longer I leave it to dry, it will cure properly. And that is why I wanted to finish this part while I was working, rather than leave it to dry and then come back to do it again. No, I just wanted to finish everything and leave it overnight so it can take all the time that it needed to dry properly. So there I placed it on. I'm being very careful because, like I said, the flake is still a little too moist and I didn't want to spoil or damage what I had already put down. So then I took a piece of jute cord and tied the two ends together, and I'm using that as my hanger. And then I took a piece of brown paper, glued that over the knot to hide the raw edge from the cardboard, and to give this a little bit more embellishment and finishing, I took a piece of jute cord and I glued that right around the edge of the cardboard all the way around, and then use the lighter to burn off the fuzzies. And that is it, guys. I love it. You will see more of this in the final reveal. Now let's get to the last inspiration. I picked up this flip-flop from Walmart. It was the last one they had. So here I'm just removing the tag and the little sticker from it. And how many of you know that many times the idea that you had in your head is not how you executed your plan? So this is one of that case. The ideas I had in my head, a million of them, I ended up at the end of this DIY not going according to script. But you will see. And I eventually loved it in the end. So I measured and just cut off the heel section right below where the straps are. And then I took some hot glue and the fix-it-all glue, and I glued the top half back onto the heel section, not where I cut it from, but on top of it. And that gave me two L shape, like bookends. That's how it looked. Now originally I wanted to keep the straps on there, so that is why you see me gluing down that section. I eventually had to remove them because they weren't turning out like how I had planned it in my mind. So here I'm just showing you what I did. I glued them down with the fix-it-all glue and the hot glue, and then I painted it 2 coats of the Waverly Ivory paint, and now it's dry. I'm sanding it down. I also used some spackle to fill up all the little areas that needed to be filled, and that I left it overnight to dry, and here it is all dried. Next, I mixed Folk Art Coffee Latte and Folk Art Flat Almond Latte together to give me this shade. And I gave this 2 good coats. And then I had these 2 small vase or wooden vase from Woodpecker's Craft. I painted those with Folk Art Multi-Surface in Coconut Milk. Now they're all dry. To cover up the imperfections where the 2 pieces joined, I took a piece of burlap ribbon. This came on a roll that I have in my stash. And I'm going to be doing a little design right there in the middle. So I just took the pencil and sketch out my design. And I'm just using the ribbon as a ruler to just help me with marking where I needed to stop. And once I trace that out, I'm going in again with my sealer and terrazzo flakes. And I took the brush and I'm just applying the sealer right in the area that I just marked off with the pencil, applying as much as I can, and then sprinkled the terrazzo flakes on that. Now on this one I am going to give it as much as possible because I don't want it looking too sparse. I want the area to be well covered with the flakes, so I'm going in with a lot of it, as much as possible. And you also want to make sure that your surface is well coated with the sealant so it can hold the flakes properly. And then once I applied that, I dusted off the excess. And of course, you're not wasting this. You're going to scrape it up and place it back in your bottle. Now, because this is going to require drying time, I'm just showing you what I will be doing off camera. I'll be gluing down the burlap ribbon. I'll be placing my little vase there, and I will also be using a piece of jute cord to just go around the flaked area. I will also be wrapping around a piece of jute cord around my little vases, and you will see more of this in the final reveal. Now here we are for the final reveal. Here is our tumbling tower block frame. I love this one. I just love the colors. And here is our bamboo placemat vase. Love this one as well. And here is our little flip-flop planter stand. I don't really have a name for this, but I love it. Let me know what you think about this, guys, and how it turned out. Let me know which one of these 3 was your favorite. And I also want to thank Kathy Jo and Brenda for hosting this playlist, and Melissa for joining as their guest host. Guys, don't forget the playlist down below as well as their channels. If you stuck around to the end, thank you so much for joining me today and watching to the end. If you have not yet subscribed, do so before you leave, And if you enjoy budget-friendly content like this one and would like to see more, I suggest this video right here or this playlist. And stay safe, my friends. Remember, Jesus loves you and so do I. Bye.